There's plenty of studies on NIH that talk about the benefits of ozonated water to the immune system and being anti-inflammatory. All the European sauna studies, they consider half of the benefit of a sauna to be ion therapy. And when you have the ions at 20,000 per cubic centimeter, the sweat volume coming off the body doubles. The sauna sweat studies, where they analyzed what was in sweat from exercise, the sauna sweat is full of so many more toxins, but it's humidifying and you're rebreathing it. It's up the toxic humidified sauna sweat. This can go in any sauna.
So it's kind of like how you think about now people who are wearing masks are releasing toxins and bacteria from their mouth, but they're breathing it back in with, and that's the same thing as not having one of the breathe safes. So that you're not going, oh, I'm detoxing, but now I'm sucking it back in because the air is now toxic.
Right.
So there's like all these really cool detox hacks, like the castor oil pack, the Enema kit, the sauna. Which order do they do ozone and binders, and then also adding back minerals?
You're listening to Cleanse, Heal, Ignite podcast, and I'm your hostess, Diane Kazer, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, former pro soccer player, transformational leader, holistic healer, and life purpose coach, helping you and your business awaken to your full potential.
Hey warriors, welcome back. We're going to talk with Eileen today about how to use all these amazing devices that she has. So you probably have already heard my other episode on the importance of ozone. And we also talked about enemas and saunas. And we're going to talk a bit more about how to actually use these things today and why I think that these are the most important devices that you need to have for your home, for your whole family, because we've got a lot of people asking questions. And I also have several different presentations I've done for the Worldwide Freedom Rally, not really a rally, but more like a gathering on how do we protect ourselves from high levels of EMFs, and knowing what we know that EMFs and high radiation depletes our body of oxygen. So what better conversation to have with Eileen today than how to add more oxygen to the body. And then we're also going to talk about how to protect and detox from these nanoparticles that act as little antennas, which draw more of this radiation in from frequencies. Those would be emitted from 5G and 4G antennas. So we've got a lot of people who have had a lot of issues lately, like blood clots and kidney stones. And a lot of people are saying, I'm drinking a ton of water and I'm adding minerals to my water, but I still don't feel hydrated or mineralized or nourished. So what gives? And how do we clean our air from a lot of this stuff? Because a lot of these airborne chemicals are being sprayed in our skies and they end up in our house, and it's causing a lot of people a lot of issues. So we're going to cover a lot of ground today. And we're going to talk about how to use these things, why they're important, and what makes Eileen's products different than a lot of things out there. I've got a lot of your questions that I'm going to cover in this episode. So always keep the questions coming, because this helps me to help you. And then the last thing we're going to cover too is how to create a daily protocol around this, because there's a lot of you out there who are either doing protocols with me or in the Warrior Cleanse or your followers. And you're like, okay, hold on a minute. I'm supposed to take ozone away from binders, and I'm supposed to take both ozone and binders away from supplements, as well as my anti-parasites, as well as my food. So how do we stack our hacks without like wanting to hack our brain off or our head off, because it feels like it's just too much, right? So let's dive in, Eileen. Thank you again for coming on the show, first of all.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you are a joy to have, because I love diving in and geeking out with you. So let's talk about first a very quick synopsis of, it's said that ozone water can kill like any pathogen, viruses, et cetera. And I know we can't make any claims, but people are asking, well, how do I, how does ozone benefit me, considering what we're working with right now with the CV and also with graphene and all of that? So why is this one of the greatest tools that people need at home?
Well, we have low oxygen levels for whatever reason, whether we're sedentary, we're spending too much time indoors, or, we're under stress from EMFs or whatever. And so when you can actually drink some water that's infused with 3 elements of O1, O1 is O3, that's unstable. And ozone is a very potent oxidizer. So O1 breaks off, and it's going to purify everything. It's going to break down chemicals. It's going to oxidize, and it selectively oxidizes cells that don't have the protective enzyme coating. And then you're left with a boost of pure O2, oxygen. So it's interesting to note that the body selectively, when there's not enough oxygen in the body, will begin shutting down supporting of certain cells. So then they begin losing their enzyme coating. And when a cell doesn't have that protective enzyme coating, it becomes susceptible to infection from pathogens.
And graphene oxide toxicity, right?
Yeah. And
or any toxicity.
Also, or parasites, or, if a cell has gone awry. I mean, every one of us have cells that go out of control that our immune system recycles so we don't develop cancer.
Right.
So those kinds of cells do not have the enzyme coating around them. So when an oxidizer is present, it breaks those down. It helps the body recycle them and get them out of your system. And so it's a miracle that it's cleaning up. We're mostly water. It's cleaning up the mess and the toxins in our body, but then it's infusing us with oxygen so that then more of our cells can have the protective enzyme coating. So it actually boosts our immunity. Yeah. And there's plenty of studies on NIH that talk about the benefits of ozonated water to the immune system and being anti-inflammatory and all those kinds of things. And so ozonated water just needs to be consumed on an empty stomach, like you were saying, but just 20 minutes.
Okay.
So it's like when you start cooking your food, put on the ozone machine.
Right.
When you first get up, put on the ozone machine. Drink your ozonated water when you first get up. And then if you're making your coffee or your juice or whatever else it is, half an hour later. So you can fit it in like before meals, because then with your meal, you can have your supplements and so on and so forth. So if you think of it in that way, you can actually sneak in the ozonated water quite easily.
Okay. Yeah. That's, I think the hardest thing is like, how do we do this without disrupting? Cause you don't want to take supplements or food with ozone, cause it starts to oxidize the food and
the healthy nutrients, breaking them down. And so it's consuming the oxidation potential that could be getting rid of pathogens. Right. And it's making your healthy stuff less effective. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So don't do that. And you also might get a bloated or painful belly. So I think it sounds like the best thing to do then. And some people intermittent fasting in the morning and they're not doing, food.
So water's perfect.
Yeah. So it would sound like ozone this is what I've been doing. I've been starting my morning and I don't think I have it with me, but I have like a smaller 16-ounce container of water and I do my ozone in the morning. And then I start doing like brushing my teeth and get everything ready. And I don't take anything until 30 minutes later. That's when I take my anti-parasites and, my parasite pills, and then I'll have breakfast. And then after that is when I've been doing my binders. So I think that sounds like a pretty good order for people because you want to keep binders are kind of, I wouldn't say they're doing the same thing as ozone, but they're also assisting you at clearing things out. And you don't want to take those with supplements either. So would that sound like a good routine? Like in that order?
Well, binders are non-discriminatory, meaning they take the good with the bad.
Right.
So a binder after you've taken your supplements.
An hour after is usually when I do it.
An hour. Yeah. If it's an hour to 2 hours after, because generally I think that it takes about 2 hours to go through this whole transit thing. I would say more like about 2 hours, or try to do, like a lot of times, I might take some things that act as binders, maybe like after I've done my sauna because my circulation's increased and things are dislodging and
I was going to ask
maybe
you about
on
that.
the move, so, that's a good time.
So let's talk about that one because there's the, I used to have clients, and there's some clients that are on protocols where, you wake up first thing in the morning and you take some of the binders, then you wait to do food and supplements until an hour later. And so I'm trying to get this simplified. So I'm imagining some people are like parents or they work out of the home and they're on the go. Let's simplify that for some of those who are kind of on the go, like when to do the ozone before or after the enema, or I'm sorry, before or after sauna or before or after enema. So there's like all these really cool detox hacks, like the castor oil pack, the enema kit, the sauna. which order do they do ozone and binders and then also adding back minerals?
It really depends on somebody's day, but usually I drink spring water with my healthy salt, which is 20% minerals with a negative charge and an 11.72 pH. So I'm like drinking that before I go in there because that's causing more protons to go inside my cell and open it up so the lysosomes can drop the internal pH. So it generates hydroelectricity, besides the phototherapy that you get. And so it really cleans up molecular debris.
Okay.
So I generally will do the coffee enema first.
Before sauna, you mean?
Before sauna.
Okay.
Before I do my coffee enema, I'm drinking down my ozonated water. I'm doing my coffee enema. Then I'm drinking my mineral water and I'm getting in the sauna. And then, so you've got all kinds of circulation and oxidation going and things happening. So things are on the move. That's the perfect time to take a binder when things are on the move.
Great.
Because it's less likely for the binder to take good stuff with the bad when you've just done a bunch of things to cause the bad to be on the move. Because
makes sense.
Everything is like in an enzyme binding site in some cell in your body. So if we do these things that cause those elements to come out of the cell and then become in the bloodstream,
right,
that's when they're easiest to clean up or mop up,
Yeah, especially if they were in the lymphatics, which we're doing a lot of lymphatics in the warrior cleanse. Now I'm teaching them how to dry brush and everything as well, which, you so kindly generated or donated one of your dry brushing kits for the group, and we'll see who wins that one. So you probably also, I'd imagine, do ozone water, coffee enema, and then dry brush and then get in the sauna.
Yeah. I always dry brush before getting in the sauna.
Yeah,
it causes you to sweat more, so much faster, and then I put on our organic sauna hat, because if you're doing lots of saunas, it'll dry out your hair. And then it also causes your core body temperature because you lose heat through your head. So having on that organic sauna hat does two things. It protects your hair, but it causes your core body temperature to go up faster. You sweat more.
Okay. And you sell those on your site too, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right on. I did not know that. Okay. So let's talk about the timing of this from ozone water number 1, coffee enema number 2, dry brush number 3, spring mineral water with your healthy salt number 4, and then binder number 5. Like from, let's say ozone water is 8:00 a.m. Let's walk us through exactly what time you do ozone. That's 8 a.m. You drink down how many ounces?
I do probably 16 ounces.
Okay. And then we do coffee enema at what time?
Well, I use a percolator. So I'm, making ozonated water, getting my coffee going, percolating. It takes me 20 minutes to percolate a cup of coffee, So after I've done that, then I'm in there doing my coffee enema. So that goes pretty pretty fast.
Okay.
Yeah, so usually by 8:30. Yeah.
So there's no, is there a distance between the time you drink the ozone water to the time that you're doing the coffee enema? There's no need to be a gap. No. So you could do them at the same time almost.
Yeah, you could.
Okay. And prepare them at the same time is what you're saying.
You're right.
So then let's just say someone does the coffee enema between 8 and 8:30 and then dry brush at 8:30, right after they're done with the enema. Right. And then they are pretty much the same time they're dry brushing for 5 minutes. And then they get in the sauna.
When they drink their glass of mineral rich, water.
Do they need to do that before they get in the sauna, or can they bring that into the sauna with them?
They can bring it in the sauna, but the purpose of the sauna is to heat up your core body temperature. And if you're drinking water during your sauna, it's going to cool you down. So you're going to have to be in there longer. So I usually drink, so I'm separating my ozone water from my mineral rich water by 30 minutes.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah.
And then, so I'm drinking that before that I get in the sauna. And then that way I have, more water to drink after I get out of the sauna.
Yeah. And that's good. They could drink the water while they're dry brushing.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay. And then we're in the sauna. And then how long do they sit in the sauna with the cap on?
Well, it depends on what kind of sauna a person has.
Mm-hmm.
The Sonifix system has an R12 insulation, so you don't have to preheat it. You get in 5 minutes, it's 120 degrees. If you have the breathe safe in there, stacking your hacks, you're going to
thank you.
You're going to be inhaling more than 20,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter. You're going to be inhaling, according to my lab test, 56,000 if you keep this within 40 inches of your face.
And to them, that means what? Like, how does that benefit them?
All the European sauna studies, they consider half of the benefit of a sauna to be ion therapy. And when you have the ions at 20,000 per cubic centimeter, the sweat volume coming off the body doubles.
Wow.
And normally when you take a sauna, it's a homeostatic response where your body's rectal temperature goes down because it's trying to cool you off.
Right,
when
exactly.
You're breathing those negative ions, your body's not stressed by the heat yet, so your rectal temperature won't go down. And literally after you get out of the sauna, after you've been breathing this, your rectal temperature will continue to rise. That's what we want to help kill Lyme, kill whatever it is that's like in our body. We want to get that core body temperature, simulating a fever, to enhance immunity. And so this little device not only does that, but according to lab tests, after people were commenting on how they're not using their sleep apnea equipment, how they don't have to use their asthma inhalers, I tested and it's increasing background oxygen levels 70 to 118%. And then you think about the sauna sweat studies where they analyzed what was in sweat from exercise versus
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Sweat from a sauna, you're in the parasympathetic mode versus sympathetic. So
exactly.
The sauna sweat is full of so many more toxins, but it's humidifying and you're rebreathing it. This cleans up the toxic humidified sauna sweat. This can go in any sauna.
So it's kind of like how you think about now people who are wearing masks are releasing toxins and bacteria from their mouth, but they're breathing it back in with, and that's the same thing as not having one of the breathe safes. So that you're not going, oh, I'm detoxing, but now I'm sucking it back in because the air is now toxic.
Right.
Makes so much sense. Okay.
So this helps because it's going to raise your core body temperature, so when you're in the sauna, how long do you need to stay in there is what spurred this conversation.
Exactly.
If you got a breathe safe, you're going to sweat twice as much in half the time, because my panels are radiant, so the light can't leave. You can go to the Instagram and look at pictures of the sauna, the one with the drop ceiling. There's no light. It traps all the phototherapy around you. And mathematically, the speed of light times every second you're in there, like how much more are you getting? It's like through the roof. So you actually, your cell's temperature from the inside increases just because of the light exposure, not the ambient air temperature. So some people literally go in my sauna and in 5 minutes, even without a preheat, are dripping sweat. People with really underactive thyroids that normally would have to stay in a sauna an hour and barely sweat, they're sweating profusely in 30 minutes.
Yeah,
and the more that you do it with the incandescent bulb sauna, the more that your ATP and cellular response and metabolism increase. So over time, you're going to sweat so much faster.
So somebody could do, like, let's say, instead of like a 60-minute session without the breathe safe it would be 60 minutes, but you would only need to do half that, 30 minutes, to get the same equivalent. If you had the breathe safe, so you're essentially cutting time in half and getting the same effect.
Right. And then if you have my radiant panels, it's even more because of the mathematical, light just bouncing at the speed of light, exposing, to your cells even more. And so that's why a lot of people, once they try my sauna system, are totally amazed. And every sauna of mine is a Faraday cage. It comes with the grounding snaps and everything. There's no extra charge for that, and for the plug that goes in the wall. So, you have zero EMF. Yeah. So it's
really
pretty
important.
amazing.
Okay, cool. So this whole thing could take, I mean, theoretically, if they got in the shower by 8:35, they're in the shower they're in the sauna for 30 minutes. So that's really an hour protocol right there. And that's something that they can do every single day if they wanted to.
Yes. And then after they get out of the sauna, because if they've been in there 30 minutes, within 15 to another 30 minutes from there, they could be doing their binder, because then everything is on the move, and be showering and get ready. And then by the time they're ready to cook their breakfast, so or they could do the, but I think that taking the binder after they get all that stuff circulating and moving would be the best time, instead of an hour after you eat. Maybe an hour after you eat, that's the time to do your parasite stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So that sounds like a great morning, and especially, or if they couldn't do all of that in the morning, so then like that could be maybe an evening routine too. So if they started the ozone water, how far does that need to be away from, let's say they ate dinner at 6? So
some people get so much energy from drinking ozone water because they're so oxygen deficient that they are just all alive.
Right.
So I would cut off ozone before dinner. Maybe, while you're making dinner, have that be your ozonated water, but not after dinner, not after a sauna. But, saunas put you in the parasympathetic, and a lot of people sleep a lot better. So a lot of people do like doing the sauna at night, which is no big deal. Obviously, you got to do the coffee enema in the morning because of the caffeine, So.
Okay. Or they could do ozone enema. Well, ozone enema in the evening could give them energy too, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So they can figure it out. But this sounds like it's a good morning routine in general. Somebody can
and they can alternate days. Like if they can't do all of that, they can do part of it,
Yeah.
But, I always tell people just add one thing, and then you start seeing the pay, for that, the benefits of it. So then you're game for like doing a 2-week challenge to try to do all that stuff. And then it's like the way you feel after you do it, you never want to quit. So then it's like spa day for me. That's my time. It's amazing how you'll make time for something that, I'm going to be 60 years old in a few months, and I feel better than I did when I was in my 20s. And do you think I'm going to give up my spa day every day?
I know, that's what I've been doing. I'm like, I'm protecting my spa day for my insides, which feels like a spa day for my outsides. So
yeah.
Gotta protect that time. So teach us how does it work to do an ozone enema? Because if we're doing, the ozone with the degasser and the machine behind you, that becomes colder water, right? So that your butt's going to be like, no, that's too cold. So how do we warm it up? And is it just all the ozone water, or is there anything we can add to it? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the best time to do an ozone enema is right after you do your coffee enema, because it's purged out. So there's left stuff along that membrane wall. So whatever does get there goes up the portal vein and hits the bloodstream much faster. And, you could do room temperature water and ozonate it. And that's not too far off from the tepid water. Because I always like, in my enema fix, the pump bottle, I don't know how many people have just poured coffee right in this and cracked the jar. And I'm going like, it is not a coffee mug. Didn't you do any canning with your grandma? You can't pour hot liquid in a jar. Right. So you fill it up, up to like here with your room temperature water. Then you can pour hot coffee in there. So when you put your finger in there, the coffee enema solution, it's just tepid. It's not much warmer than room temperature. So it's not that much of a transition to just use room temperature water and ozonate it, because you'll still get over 1 part per million. If you use warm water, like hot water for a shower, and ozonate it, you're only going to get 0.3 part per million.
Okay. Okay.
And then of course that hot water for a shower is going to be too hot for your insides anyway.
Exactly.
So it's not that, you don't want to like use water out of the refrigerator for ozone enema.
Yeah, I know that too. So either or, if they just did straight ozone, or if they're doing the double combo, they would do the coffee enema and fill it up to where you said almost the top there. And it would just be, that would be filtered water. That wouldn't be ozonated water. And then you can fill it to the top of your coffee solution. You do that, hold it for 15 minutes, and then go back and then have, I guess at that point, you could have already ozonated the water. So you don't have to wait for another 15 minutes.
Right. Because when you're jumping in the shower to use your ozone enema, you have the machine making, another jar full of ozonated water. And that's why a lot of people too will buy an extra glass jar to have, so we have those for sale too, if they want.
So I know people are going to say this too, because I'm thinking it. Some days it's harder to hold an enema. So people are like, wait a minute, you're standing up and pumping it.
So this is the beauty of it, because people's knees and their back, and then not having bowel control, because it really depends on, maybe you ate something that disrupted your digestive system. So that day you can't hold it. And I teach people that it's total hold time, and practice makes perfect. So it's no big deal if 2 minutes later you got to go sit on the toilet and eliminate. But with the stand up in the shower, you can pump just as after you prime it. You have to prime the liquid so it, the coffee solution is in here, the ozone, but you can just pump it as slow as you want or as fast as you want. And it goes inside and it's comfortable. It doesn't hurt you. And then, you're standing. If you have a little bit of a leak while you're in the shower, it's no big deal. And then when you feel like you have to eliminate, then you just go jump on the toilet. But there's
so you get out of the shower all wet.
Yeah. I just have, special rugs for my bathroom to go from the shower to the toilet,
Yeah. Or if people don't want to deal with that, they can just lay down and pump it.
Yeah. And use it just like, anything else. But I tell you what, you try it in the shower once, you'll never lay down again. It's more comfortable to stand up and do it versus laying down. Yeah. And you can stand there, and you can just begin rubbing like this, go up.
Like ileocecal,
and then over. And it's just that you're going to get just as much, just as far with that pump as laying down. But when you get up off of laying down on the floor, I'd say 90% of the time you're going to lose stuff out of your rectum and make a mess on the floor or on your towels or whatever it is that you do. And you get none of that when you're standing in the shower.
How so? You get none of like the pressure, you mean?
Well, you can have the pressure, but when you're going from laying down to standing up, you're more bending over your stomach. You're putting pressure on your intestines that cause it to expel some of the liquid before you can get to the toilet. Yeah. So you don't have any of that. And then, as you fill up and you begin to hold, it's going to give you muscle tone. So then you can fill up and probably walk around without even leaking, to get to the bathroom.
Okay, great.
It's like I hardly ever leak at all, ever going from the shower to the toilet.
Yeah. I always tell people, because I get a lot of questions about, well, I was only able to hold my enema for 5 minutes and you say 15 minutes, Diane. And I just say, work your way up to it. Would you have any? And I don't put all this in at once. I go halfway. Then I rub and I'm doing whatever, using my fascia blaster, all that kind of stuff in the shower. I actually use the wooden nub brush from the brush set in the shower on my face and on my neck, because it doesn't leave bruises like the fascia blaster does. And the dry brush then, while you're even wet?
There's not dry brush. There's one that has wooden nubs.
Oh, yes. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. It's a massager. One. Right.
So this
that comes with the set
acts like a fascia blaster where it can break up fascia, so I'm like, so I'm occupying myself. I'm stacking my hacks while I'm standing there, letting my enema, but however long it is, it's fine. You just go empty and you refill.
Right.
Even if you only have a total hold time of 2 minutes, it doesn't matter. Tomorrow you got another time to do it, and you'll just begin to develop that bowel control and that muscle tone there to where you'll be able to hold it longer.
So then could you use that solution? Like, let's say you only used half and you're like, okay, I'm done for the day. Could you just leave that in your shower and then you could use that the next day, but just clean the tip, obviously?
Yeah, you could do that.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay. So you don't have to, I know sometimes even myself, I waste the rest of my enema kit because I only get half in and I'm like, okay, I'm full for now. And then I have to dump out the rest. So I like that one's closed because nothing could enter it. No bugs.
Yeah. And then, but I like to teach the double fill, go empty, get back in, put it in again. It's just so much easier because you got no mess from getting up and linking all over the floor or whatever.
Right.
You're just jumping in and out of the shower, and it's just super simple.
And you clean the tip like with some kind of a
I have I use soap and ozone water.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the coffee's oily, so I use the soap, but then to sterilize it, because I've got my ozone generator and everything there, and I've got a fresh thing of ozonated water, I'm cleaning it because I'm using the ozonated water to brush my teeth and wash my face and all this other stuff. And so I just have a setup in the bathroom that I'm making ozonated water for all those purposes. So I know that it's sterilized.
Right. So that when you're standing in the shower, I'm imagining that this is likely to slip out of you too, and you're standing there. So how do you ensure, where do you put it? Like what height to ensure and the tip so it doesn't fall out?
When you're vigorously pumping, this sometimes can become loosened.
Okay.
So in my directions, I say, always check to make sure that that's tight. Hold one hand here, you put the other tip inside you, and then you're holding it like this while you're pumping.
Okay.
Then when you take it out and you're just waiting, set it down on the floor of your shower or set it down on a wide shelf. Because I have so many people that are just holding it like this, and they didn't check to make sure that this was tight and it came loose and the glass jar drops, or they're sticking it up high on a shelf and they bump it. Yes. So, it can't fall far if you set it on the floor of the shower.
When you're done pumping, right?
Yeah.
When you're done pumping. So when you're done pumping, you're doing the pump thing, and then you're like, okay, you pull it out, you pull the tip out.
Right.
And then you put it on the floor. And then when you come back in, then you clean the tip again and then pump again and then pull it back out. And you're just standing there and holding it as long as you can.
And I have a hook in my shower that I just drape this over like that.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
So that way, in between the first and the second fill, I don't have to clean this. Okay. It's just from day to day that when I'm done, I'm cleaning out my jar, I'm cleaning my tip, that kind of thing. And I use the ozone water to sterilize it. Yeah.
And you clean the tube too? Do you clean the tube with ozone water? Like how often?
Well, I have ozone. I pour ozone water in this. Mm-hmm. Then I pump water through the tube so it completely sterilizes everything.
Got it. And how often do you do that? Every time you use it?
Yeah.
In between uses.
And that's why I have, I got this set up with the Traxi Fresh and the Refresh. I have one in my bathroom. I have one in the kitchen.
You're the owner, so
it's convenient,
Does how long does that tube last before they have to replace it?
It'll begin to get discolored from the coffee.
Yeah.
Just over time. This is just a silicone tube. Mm-hmm. And I don't sell the silicone tube separate, but they sell them online.
Yeah.
This diameter. And, I've got one that's because I have had a prototype now for 2 years and I'm still on the same tube and it just looks a little bit tan. But I know that it's clean, it's sterile. So, I'm not concerned about it.
Yes. Okay. Okay. That was my next question. Sweet. So now I've heard people say, and this is what I want to be really clear on as well. I get a lot of people asking me, oh, is ozone the same thing as chlorine dioxide, i.e. miracle mineral solution? And is it the same thing as just using hydrogen peroxide? So what would you say to those two?
Yeah, it's not the same. Ozone is 3 molecules of oxygen, O1, O1, O1. And it's an oxidizer because in nature you need pairs. Pairs are stable, but a third wheel, man, it just breaks off and it oxidizes. And ozone is a much stronger oxidizer than hydrogen peroxide.
Okay.
And then miracle mineral solution, it's a chemical reaction because of the chlorine dioxide and the citric acid. And so it can be pretty harsh, an MMS protocol, whether you're doing the 1, 2, 3, or 4. And so to do like MMS every day, and it's more for, reducing pathogen loads, not increasing oxygen levels in the body. And so the ozone's going to increase the oxygen levels in the body, and hydrogen peroxide does have byproducts. So it's not as safe either as ozone. And the ozone, according to NIH, is, anti-inflammatory, and it does all this stuff to our immune system that's pretty fantastic. And so, I would say that they each have their place.
Right.
There's times, obviously we can't recommend MMS, but
Exactly.
I've used it personally. Personally, I'm allergic to antibiotics. So if I ever have to have a life-threatening situation, I use the MMS and I don't have to be hospitalized. And so there's a place for that. And ozone doesn't fill that slot.
Exactly. Okay, great. That's important. Okay. And then I've also gotten the question of, what is the difference between drinking ozone and enemaing with ozone and going in and having an IV ozone treatment?
Right. Well, the IV ozone, where your blood goes out of your body, they're ozonating it and they're putting it back in. That's the premier. That's the premier because it's saturating so much more of your body than you can achieve by drinking ozonated water. So drinking ozonated water, because of the temperature of your body, gets the oxidation to happen quite quickly. So it's not like going into your lower colon to disrupt your good bacteria, but it's still cleaning up the liquid in your body. After all, the EPA injects ozonated water into contaminated groundwater to clean it up. And so we're mostly water, so we get that benefit and we get that oxygen boost. And then doing like an ozone enema rectally, it goes up the portal vein and it hits the bloodstream. So you get a lot more oxygen floating in your bloodstream through an ozone water enema than you do from drinking it. However, anytime you would use ozonated water in an enema, or if you went to a doctor and had the gas pumped in, because the machine that I sell is not adequate for that. You cannot do insufflation with that because it's got 0.003% nitric acid, which the oxygen fed machines have 0%. You have to have 0% for that. It's fine with the water because then it mixes with water. Then it's like unmeasurable. So the difference in that is if you talk to anybody who's done ozone gas and insufflation through the rectum, or a lot of ozone enema, it just totally destroys your microbiome. And which is a good thing for a lot of people because they have so much of the bad bacteria that just taking the oral and changing their diet, it's just like, it's not translating into the healthy environment in your colon. And so with the ozone water enema and maybe insufflation under doctor's care, then you can repopulate maybe with kefir water or, because there's a lot more good organisms there than there are in just like yogurt or whatever, or, taking the powder, taking the capsules off, because most of our probiotics are meant to be enteric coated so that our digestive juices don't destroy the organisms before they reach our intestinal tract. So you can take them out of their capsules and you can do a rectal implant. So when you're doing rectal ozone, you have to re-implant.
So you said you would take a powder, like you would take a probiotic pill, and then you would do what with it?
Like put it either in yogurt or like kefir water. Kefir water has a lot of, good organisms in it anyway, and then hold it in there.
So you would do like a bulb more so?
Yeah, like a rectal syringe bulb, to where you're just, and letting it absorb to recolonize with the better blend of bacteria. Yeah. I mean, now you hear about doctors doing fecal transplants, and the fecal data, a bank, and so you can, play around with, but the doctors, I know one in particular that's really into the fecal transplant. And he's like, he loves the ozone thing because he can kill off the bad guys. So the ones you want just flourish.
Oh, so before they do the implantation, they use ozone first to kind of clean it up. And then they do the, wow, that's okay. I've actually had some of my clients do fecal transplant, and they've said a lot of really great things. So I think kind of the mini version of that would be, and then I'm also thinking that you could probably make your own little suppositories and just put them in the freezer and put some like coconut oil in there and some probiotics in between, and then insert them directly before you go to bed, and maybe after an enema if you're doing you're doing one at nighttime. But I think that's a good idea too. I like that. Okay, cool. And now there's something that I want to talk about, and this is where we were talking about huge issues right now with oxygenation in the body. And this is a big part of why we got a lot of people going to the hospitals and they're being put on vents and they can't breathe, and it's helping. But then the next step is that they end up giving them the R prescription, and then they might not be around anymore. So we're not saying that any of this is medical advice, you guys, but how to more effectively get oxygen into the body would be the machine that you were just talking about. So to prevent as much as you can, I'm not saying to prevent because we can't, to reduce the likelihood that you'll need to go to the hospital because you are having a hard time breathing. Let's talk about this. So you could add that to any sauna, far infrared, not to the one at the gym, I would say.
Well, actually, because it works on, you can go, but this is a 20,000 milliamp hour battery pack. And this is the one that I put in my hyperbaric oxygen chamber because I don't have a power outlet in there. And so I use this in there because hyperbaric strips air of negative ions. So I'm getting oxygen, even though I have an oxygen concentrator pumping in oxygen, but it's just extra benefits. But with this portable device, I have people with multiple chemical sensitivities, asthmatics. They use a crossbody purse and they put it there, and it just creates this cloud of safe breathing no matter where they go. Mm-hmm. You can put it at your desk. You can plug it in. I mean, people are sleeping with this, and, your oxygen saturation, I just breathed in on this and my oxygen saturation went up to 96%.
From what?
It was at 94.
Okay. So this is what you were also saying too. So many of you out there that I'm working with or reached out to me, and you have allergies and you're taking antihistamine after antibiotic, after asthma thing. And after a certain point, that it's not working, right? It's never getting to the root cause issue. And so how does this help people with allergies as well, so they don't have to use all the antihistamines, which destroy our hormones, especially cortisol?
Well, a lot of people have allergies that are really like chemical sensitivities because our environments are so polluted. And it's like, I like to tell a story where I went to a trade show in Spokane, Washington, and my cousin lives there. So we spent the night there. And as soon as I walked into her house, I could smell mold.
Yes. Thank you for talking about this.
And literally, here we are in the basement. I almost left, but I had this, and I literally slept with it right here, and my lungs weren't closing up. And then I would wake up gasping for air where I had apparently turned over and this wasn't there. And I'd put it right there, and then I would could breathe again. This just saved me from that moldy environment because it is producing plasma. So plasma is super effective at getting rid of, inactivating all kinds of mold spores, but also volatile organic compounds and benzenes and all this stuff that's outgassing from indoors. And our heating and ventilation systems are stripping the air of negative ions. And, you'll begin to get headaches and feel fatigued if you don't have enough negative ions around you. This computer screen is emitting positive poisonous ions. And so here's my hack to counteract those things so that I can feel better. I would just encourage people to read the 5-star reviews on the Breathe Safe, the personal stories of the life-changing things that have happened to people with using this. And then, let your unconscious be your guide. Do you want to breathe clean, oxygen-rich air? And there's just huge benefits to it. People don't realize how much the body shuts down and how we just go into this survival mode. And then they call these things diseases.
Right.
But really, if we had clean air, if we had oxygen, if we had the right negative ions, things would just begin to work right. I read a study that was done on people living in cities where they were inhaling basically more polluted air. And per capita, there was more people that were obese with more fat around their belly just from breathing unclean air. So this has huge impacts on your body, and it is your number one exposure. Let me tell you, you breathe more than you touch things. You breathe more than you drink things. This is the best hack.
That's amazing. And also, I work with so many people who have mold. Mold has become a huge problem. It's one of the 4 M's that I talk about that will deplete your health and your energy and your immune system. The 4 M's are metals, like heavy metals, magnetic frequencies, which is exactly what we just talked about. And I'm actually going to transition to that next. Mold is another one. And then mycotoxins, which is the waste that those, mold spores and fungal spores emit when, especially they're exposed to EMFs, like under the presence of EMF frequencies, which is the magnetic frequencies. If you have mold present in the body, that could amplify, based on the work of Dr. Klinghardt, it could amplify by 800 times, like it grows by 800 times and releases more mold spores and mycotoxins throughout the body, which makes you feel sick. And then you have all kinds of allergies and sensitivities and asthma, breathing issues. And none of these things happen in isolation or all of a sudden. It's just all of these things have been accumulating. And right now, obviously, we have the dirtiest air, the dirtiest water, the dirtiest food, which is why I love ozone products and all these products that Eileen's talking about, because she's cleaning these things up and purifying them so that the body thanks you, because it's like kind of going back in the reset before we had all these toxins.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show.